We begin in Kelowna, where BC Premier David Eby is seeing firsthand the devastation caused by the raging wildfires in the southern part of the province. And he's describing the scene as tragic, but hopeful.
Municipal fire departments were visible from the air, working on the ground. BC Wildfire Service working in the woods, helicopters dropping water to save homes. You could see the fire lines burning right up to the edge of homes. You could see the fire retardant that had been sprayed to save homes and structures in the area. Just incredible work, and the feedback that I kept getting from the teams on the ground, whether municipal, provincial, federal resources, was how well everybody was working together to save property, to save lives.
Officials say up to 200 buildings have been destroyed by the wildfires. Over 3,000 structures have been unaffected by the flames, but some evacuees are frustrated by the wildfire response, including where they can stay while they wait for information about their homes. Eby says he's directed staff to ensure supports are getting to affected residents. He also says hundreds of people have been contacted to help them find hotel rooms. For more on today's developments, I want to bring in CBC's Georgie Smythe. So, Georgie, what more can you tell us about what Premier David Eby said?
Yeah, well, as you've just heard, he did, was confronted by a lot of residents on that tour of the interior today, and in some cases produced some pretty uncomfortable moments between residents and the Premier, many of whom confronted him about the response of not allowing some residents back into areas that are under evacuation order. And we did hear from some residents at that confrontation who told us that in some cases that has led to interactions with police.
They're getting arrested. There are police boats at the shore stopping supplies, fuel, for generators. People in Inglemont running out of food. They're trying to help boat stuff over. Like, where's the logic in that?
People in the front line trying to keep people safe is number one, right?
Now, our colleagues in the interior did ask the Premier about some of that criticism that has been levelled at him. Take a listen to how he responded.
For all of those folks, this is an incredibly fluid, dynamic, and dangerous situation. The emergency response teams are doing the best they can in very challenging circumstances. And my best advice to everybody is to listen to those emergency frontline responders. When they're giving advice, please don't go in this area.
So we did hear from the authorities today in a press conference earlier on that some of the evacuation orders had been downgraded to alert. So some people have been allowed to return home today, but there's still thousands of people around BC that haven't heard any news about the state of their house, and they're still waiting for that news to return home as well.
Georgie, so what's the latest on the fire situation in the Okanagan tonight? Because a lot of people are also waiting for that kind of news too.
Yes, they are. And I mean, the message today is that the fire situation has improved significantly. We did hear from that update this morning that some crews in Kelowna and West Kelowna did have to put out some hot spots overnight. But overall, cooler temperatures, some rain, some light wind has sort of enabled a cap to be put on most of the fire activity. In saying that, though, most parts of Kelowna at the moment today are under a really heavy thick smoke layer because we haven't got winds moving that along, and that's something that the fire chief actually referenced this morning in that fire update, and he went so far to say as the smoke layer in a way is sort of representing how the community is feeling at the moment when it comes to being days on from fighting that intense fire. Take a listen.
It's covered our city like a gray blanket. And I know it kind of represents the way that a lot of you are feeling, and it definitely represents the way that we're feeling too. I know lots of you are tired. You're tired of being out of your homes. You're tired of this situation that we're in, and so are we. But we're not stopping, and we're not giving up, and nor should you. The smoke is going to lift today. We're going to start flying planes again.
And flying those planes again will enable people to take a better stock of the damage that has been seen in parts of the Okanagan. We have been told that up to 200 structures have been damaged or destroyed in the Okanagan, and any news for people across BC, particularly people that live in those areas, will be welcome. Sarah?
Thanks, Georgie. Okay, I want to bring now in Alana Stearns and Rod Puffenbarger, who lost their home in the Shuswap Lake. They are now staying in the Raleigh evacuation camp outside of Kamloops, BC. And you might recognize Alana from that clip because she is the one who was speaking to the Premier about her concerns and her frustrations. Alana, thank you so much for your time. Talk to me a little bit about that exchange with Premier David Eby. What made you want to voice your concerns?
Well, I guess because he's the top person in BC that maybe he can, help and coordinate a more coordinated effort in the North Shuswap, because it's like the police, I understand the police presence there for, securing looters, people's homes, but there's a lot of community people that stayed behind to fight spot fires and save homes, deliver groceries, fuel for generators. And, there was no one else to fight those fires, and to be stopped at the water, to be stopped on the road and said they can't come in. It's just a small community trying to help their neighbors and save that community. We're a small community and we're just trying to help each other as best we can. And to have that blockaded, there needs to be a better coordination between emergency services, between helping the community, I think.
Rod, can I ask you here about this community, Lee Creek, where I think you guys have lived there for 50 years, as I understand it, and we heard the Premier talk about the conflict that residents in any community, but perhaps more particularly when you've lived there for that long, that conflict that you feel between wanting to leave on an evacuation order, knowing that that's perhaps the safest thing to do, but also, as Alana is talking about, wanting to save what is there that you love so much. Tell me a little bit about Lee Creek and the kind of conflict that exists in terms of having to leave a home like that.
Well, yeah, the community our community, a little community, we call it Leaky Heights, whatever, has been there for 50 years. We started there clearing the land and all that kind of stuff, the back of the landers type thing. But our frustration, again, like my wife says, is we've got people there, our brothers and sisters are there,
Neighbors.
And neighbors are fighting these fires, spot fires, unassisted, unhelped. They're very brave people.
And, they're not getting any support. And that's what's frustrating is, and we're not getting any official word from, I understand everything's overwhelmed and the system is, people are trying to put out information, but it's tough when you don't get official information from where you think you should get it from.
Well, it's not only that, but when the powers to be is blocking that capacity to save homes and to save property is being blocked. Yes, we realize that there's a danger to it, but so what?
They're willing to take that.
To take that. We're Canadian proud, and we're trying to defend our community the best we can, and we don't need the police to block people from bringing stuff in. If there's worried about looters,
and escort them with their supplies to the place that they need. We've got, somebody feeding pretty much the whole community of firefighters and people that are running out of food and water. They're what's wrong with that?
Sorry, Rod, go ahead.
Sorry.
Okay.
What?
Well,
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I was going to ask you, you both did choose to evacuate, and you have since learned, I believe, that your home has been lost. And I wanted to ask you about that when you heard that news and how that sits with you.
Well, we anticipated when the fire, was getting
nearer and nearer to our property that we would probably be ordered out. So we did make some arrangements to store some things, but at a storage facility that in Scotch Creek, which is also being filmed. So we don't know what the status of our possessions there are. And 2 vehicles, a truck and my vehicle, we put in as much as we could and left. So
and how do you feel? How does it sit with you? Because you left, there was an evacuation order to go, and Rod points out, there was not an order to go?
Well, no, we were still on evacuation alert. One of the people, one of our neighbors who has stayed behind to fight the fires with his brother and his dad, came and knocked on our door and said the fire's right behind us, and we left. And we didn't get the alert on our phone until we were in Chase.
The Premier has said that
he...
Then you had to evacuate Chase. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. The Premier has said that he hears the frustration that people like yourselves are voicing. I want to know, though, do you feel heard? Do you feel that your point of view is understood?
I hope so, and I know everybody, the firefighters and everybody else. There's fires everywhere in Kelowna and everywhere else in BC that resources are stretched as thin as probably they've ever been. But I think in the future, I hope that there's a more, a better coordination and more disaster planning for services and communication between all the CSRD and the firefighters and everybody. There's just seems to, it fell apart, and there's people that are trying to save their own communities, and not just in Lee Creek, Scotch Creek, and everywhere else.
And I know that's true. I know there are those who did stay behind despite the fact that they have evacuation orders to leave. And Rhoda, you called these people, you called them brave, and you called them your brothers and sisters. I wonder, though, do you not worry for them? Do you not worry for the first responders who might have to go in?
Of course we are. I mean, we've known them, for many, many years, and being neighbors and friends. And I worry, of course we're worried about them, but they've made their decision. They're going to stay as long as they can and help the community as best they can.
Not everybody, bravery isn't just in a uniform. These people stay behind to protect their community. Craig Spooner, Spooner Electric there, he's got an excavator up on our property. He's trying to make, I've seen videos of it. He's going crazy with his backhoe trying to save stuff. And to be honest, they need help. They need the police to quit interfering with the help that's coming. If they are worried about looters, which would you rather have, your house or the crap that's in it? I think you would rather have the house. You can always replace the stuff that's in it. It's or a boat or a RV, whatever. The house is what's important, and these people are trying to save other people's stuff. Give us help, please. Help. These men are brave men.
You've lost. Oh, I'm so sorry. I know it's such an emotional time, and I so appreciate your time and your perspective here. I just want to finish by asking, because I know you have lost your house. Alana, what's next? What's next for you guys?
Well, at this point, it's day by day. We're safe. We're in a great camp. People are great. Food, accommodations. We're doing okay. We've got neighbors and
friends,
people.
Families here.
Yeah, and so after this, I'm not sure. I mean, we're not probably going to be able to go back. We have some friends whose house is still standing at this point that have offered us accommodations. And I've got friends and family all over BC that we will have to make that decision when we can. But right now it's just trying to get through this until it's safe to return and get some closure.
The thing is even when the fire's out, there'll be no electricity for who knows how long. Water may or may not be contaminated by the fire parts themselves. So it may be a toxic place for a little while. So I don't think anybody's going to be able to go back and live the life they live for a while, whether they have a house or not.
Alana Stearns and Rod Puffenbarger, thank you so much for your time, and we wish you well with what does lie ahead, and no doubt for yourselves and for so many others it's going to be a long process, having lost your home in the Shuswap Lake. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Help the people.
Yeah, thank you very much.